So in this video we're going to be showing and demonstrating how to access the inlet temperature sensor on the Ice Spa 70 and how to reposition it or change it, and how to insert the thermal paste, which allows us to resolve any issues with the sensor not reading properly, or if we're replacing the sensor, allows us to put enough thermal paste back in so that we have an accurate working sensor after replacing it. So the first thing we're doing here is removing the lid, which you can see has got slight hooks in the bottom of the lid, and it will slide out. There we go. So you can remove the lid off. Then we need to remove the panels on the side. First of all, undoing the port screws. So they're the inlet and outlet screws that hold the heat exchanger to the side of the case. Then we undo the bottom screws, which you can see there, and we do that all the way around the side, which will allow us to take this whole right hand side panel off. On the other side, there's the screws that hold the pressure gauge in as well, so you have to remove the screws that hold the pressure gauge on the side of the case. Then you need to remove the top screws on the case, which you can see we're doing now, and lift the bar out. So there's a retaining bar that just lifts. Another retaining bar on the side, which will come out the other side. And lastly, there's a retaining bar on the front side of the heat pump as well. So you'll see those two bars, there's one, and the one on the side slides out as well. Then the panels slightly lift up to disengage on the sides. It's a bit fiddly, but there we go. You can feel it lift up. And then that whole panel is able to rotate. You might need to remove the inlet guards. Sometimes they catch, so like we're just removing that one. And then that whole side will lift out and can be rotated up and over. Just have to free up the cables on the back of the display so that you've got enough movement, and then you can see that you can rotate the case so that, oh, we've still got caught on there. So you can rotate the case up and onto here. This gives us access to the heat exchanger, and there's 3 screws at the bottom which we can undo. So there's 2 at the front and then 1 at the rear. The one at the rear is accessible through the front now. Okay. That allows us to spin the heat exchanger slightly to allow us to access the inlet sensor. You have to remove the cable tie, and then that whole sensor pocket comes out. Using the thermal paste, we've cut a bit of tube onto the nozzle just to make it easier to squeeze into there. So on a 25mm tube, you're roughly doing 3 units, so you need a third of the tube, which we've just put in there. And then the sensor can be replaced back inside. And it needs to go fully in. And then that cable tie can go back on. So then I'm going to snip. Okay. And that's that done. So now we're going to reposition the heat exchanger back into the position of where the screws are and relocate the screws back into the feet. Good tip is only to put one of them in fully to start with while you're locating the other two, because otherwise it might not be as easy to reposition it. So on this one we're just going to do it roughly tight, and then we can locate the rear one. And then just tighten up the front one again, and then you've got a secured heat exchanger. Then we're ready to reposition the casing. So again, we rotate that round. And these hook in like that. And then it's the reverse. So we are screwing the pressure gauge retaining screws back on. As you can see there. And then we need to put the retaining bars back on. Making sure that the bar is lined up with the holes. Next we need to put the screws into the that final retaining bar on the side, and then we've got the heat exchanger screws that we can reposition to make sure that the heat exchanger is held in place. Then we need to put all of the bottom screws on. These are the black screws, so all the way around the bottom. Finally, we need to re-put the lid back onto the unit. So again, locating those little hooks into the right position on both sides. Make sure they're fully located in across the whole side. There we go. Other side in, and then it's a slide it across, and then the last two screws on the end. And then just the cover to put back in on the floor, and the cover for the inlet. We've just got to put that back in, and then we're ready to box it back up or reinstall it.